All right, it's after further review, coming off of a Cleveland Browns win over the Baltimore Ravens, 40-25. Good morning, everyone. It's Victory Monday. I'm Dave DeNatale. Jim Donovan has the morning off, a well-deserved morning off. I'm delighted to have Jay Crawford with
Dino,
me.
always good to be with you.
It's good to be with
Especially after a win.
Right? I mean,
Yeah.
you just said to me right before we got started, it is a week-to-week league,
Yeah.
and a much different feeling this time than 7 days ago. Because the Browns looked better, they played better, and they beat a pretty good football team, especially in their division.
Yeah, well, at the beginning of the season, I felt that if they could get through the first 4 games and be 2-2, that you get Antonio Callaway back,
Yes.
which is going to be a huge difference maker.
Yes.
And, then I feel like if you can get through the first 8 and you can be 5-3, and then you get Kareem Hunt, then you're in position to make a run at the playoffs.
With a schedule that really favors you.
Yes.
With teams that
it gets
that
much
you should
easier
beat.
as it goes along. Monday isn't going to be very easy, a week from
No.
tonight, when we have to go to San Francisco and play an undefeated 49ers team. But the feeling today, after an overwhelmingly positive day yesterday, is that, this is a team that's now in first. It's funny, a week ago the sky was falling.
Right.
We wanted to know who was going to call the plays. We wanted to know what was going on in the red zone. And 7 days later, that's why it is week to week. Here's a perfect example. The 49ers opened with a pretty good beating of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers in Tampa. And their fan base was thinking, our season's going to be horrible.
Right.
We just lost to the 49ers at home by 2 touchdowns. And then last night, yesterday, the Buccaneers go to L.A. and beat the team that, for the most part, is kind of the runaway pick to win the NFC.
Yes.
Handily.
Yes.
And put 55 on them.
Yes.
So week to week. Check back with us next week and we'll let you know how we feel.
Next Tuesday, I have no idea what to expect. We've asked you here on Facebook and also on YouTube as well, and I threw it out on Twitter, who most deserves a game ball for Sunday's win. On Twitter, you only get 4 options. And here are the options.
Okay.
I give. Obviously, Nick Chubb.
Sure.
I mean, that was without saying. Freddie Kitchens for the play calling. Baker Mayfield under control. And I picked a player on defense, as much as Brian Crane made fun of me for this, Jermaine Whitehead, who I thought played a terrific fourth quarter on defense, was involved in all 3 of the Browns' turnovers.
He did. It would be cheating to give it to a unit.
Yes.
But for me, I think that after 4 games, it's obvious that the strength of this football team will be its defense.
Yes.
I'm not going to give the game ball to the defense. I'm going to give it to Nick Chubb. I thought between Chubb and Landry, what they were able to do yesterday. Dino, for me, the difference between this year's Browns team and every other team we've had over the last 2 decades, when teams would game plan against the Cleveland Browns, they would identify our best player on offense and our best player on defense and game plan to stop both.
Yep.
And we didn't have the depth to overcome those double teams. Yesterday, it was clear that the Ravens were going to take Odell Beckham Jr. out of the game.
Yes.
They did. They did it effectively, too, as well as I've seen a defense shut him down. Jarvis Landry stood up. Nick Chubb stood up. In years past, we didn't have those guys to come up and take over when one of their stars was double-teamed. Same thing with defense. They're going to take one of our best defensive players out. If teams are going to double-team Myles Garrett, now we have depth on that line to create havoc, and I think that's really where we are now. Yeah. I think we've got depth, and we're going to win football games.
It was nice to see Olivier Vernon make some plays.
Yeah,
especially,
absolutely.
in a week we're sitting there going, man, do we have buyer's remorse because of that trade?
Sure.
And it was nice to see Vernon play well. But
he heard that, too.
Yeah, I'm sure he did. But to your point about Beckham, and it happened, I think, both times that Ricky Seals-Jones was the beneficiary. You'd see Beckham get double teamed, and Seals-Jones, the first time he got the touchdown, kind of veered to his left. The second time he almost went like a wheel route. He ended up getting a big play that set up a touchdown.
Yeah.
To me,
there was a third defender that broke off and followed OBJ.
Yeah.
Because they thought for sure that's where the ball was going, and that left Seals-Jones wide open.
And Mayfield went right to it. It reminded me of Darren Fells last year when Baker was able to spread the ball out. I mean, that first touchdown drive, 7 completions went to 6 different wide receivers, running backs, tight ends.
Sure.
That's what Baker was doing last year, and that was nice to see again. Spread the wealth. Don't just lock in on 1 or 2 guys.
Yeah, also I thought, we talked about Freddie, yesterday's play calling reminded me of last year's play calling. It had some creativity. It had some imagination. Everything wasn't predictable. There was some misdirection. We had a triple reverse that could have gone for a touchdown.
Absolutely.
Or at least a huge gainer. By the way, I think Beckham threw that ball 60 yards in the air.
Between he and...
Off 1 foot.
Yeah, and it was like, remember the throw Landry made to Perriman last year? Yeah, but those 2 guys, there's nothing they can't do.
We have the best 3rd, 4th, and 5th string quarterbacks in the NFL.
Clearly.
Yeah, so it was fun to watch. It was really, it was much needed.
Yes.
Because I think I told you last week, I felt that the season gets away if they go to Baltimore and lose in any fashion, blowout or close. I felt like the season could have easily gotten away from the Browns because at 1-3, with upcoming against San Francisco, Seattle, and New England, you could be 1-6 before you know it.
Right.
And the season's over if you're 1-6.
Right, because then you've got to play letter perfect.
You've got to be 9-0 the rest of the way, and 10-6 doesn't always get you in.
Correct, as we saw in 2007.
Literally, you lose yesterday, and now you're going to San Francisco to play a Niners team who, by the way, is coming off a bye week, so they've had 2 weeks to get ready. So it really was, yesterday was, you say this every week. This is the biggest week of the season. But if they had lost yesterday, this would be a season really that would be teetering on
the brink of disaster.
On the brink of disaster, no question.
A couple of your comments from Jonathan. He says, Chubb changed the game, keep feeding him. I love that. I mean, there were times where Chubb was only getting 2 yards a carry, 2 yards here, 2 yards there, but they kept up the commitment to him.
Yeah.
And it resulted finally in the big play, kind of the sea parted, and Chubb went in on an 88-yard touchdown. Reminded me of when Jamal Lewis did that a couple times against the Browns back in the 2000s, and it felt good. It felt good to watch him bust one against Baltimore, but it rewarded the Browns for keeping the commitment to the run and not getting impatient.
I had an offensive coordinator tell me once, and I love this story. He said he equated the run game to swinging a hammer trying to knock down a brick wall.
Yeah.
It's not pretty.
Yes.
It's gritty. There's a lot of hard work. But with each swing of that hammer, you weaken the wall a little more. It's like a boxer going to the body of his opponent. They're not sexy punches. The one they're going to show is the punch that finished the fighter to the jaw. But what the work that is done,
the body
is
blows,
the body
blows.
So as I'm watching the game unfold, and just before he broke the long run, I think it was Trent Green made a comment, Chubb has been nothing spectacular
Yeah, something
today.
like that. Yeah.
They're feeding him. He hasn't. And I thought, just keep giving it to him. And so what happens is when you're knocking down that brick wall, the swing that knocks it down isn't any harder than every swing that preceded it. But that's the one that broke the camel's back, that brought down the brick wall.
Because you've softened it.
And that's what they did. And so I thought yesterday the Ravens' defense they got caught guessing a couple of times. And when you catch a defense guessing the wrong way with the right call, which is what happened yesterday, it oftentimes, especially when you got a back with breakaway speed, it can result in that long touchdown run. And that's what we saw yesterday. By the way, when you go back and look at that run, you've got a pulling center and guard that are 15 yards downfield making blocks. I said the defense earns the game ball because they're playing without Kirksey and without more than half of the back end of the defense. I thought for me, yesterday was all about the offensive line.
Yes.
These guys have been much maligned.
Yes.
And I thought yesterday, you still had a couple of miscues and silly penalties. But for the most part, I thought the offensive line yesterday won that football game for the Browns.
Yeah, after that sack on that third down on that first series.
Well, the first pass was batted down.
Right, first pass was batted down.
And the next attempt, he sacked. And I thought, here we go again.
Come on.
And that was really the last time I complained about the offensive line all day.
The rest of the afternoon.
They did their job. I have no idea how they flip the switch, but if they can play like that the rest of the year, this is a playoff team.
Yeah, there's no question. And the other thing to me was the approach with Baker. And instead of trying to have him throw, 30, 40, 50-yard bombs,
right.
You could still get it. I mean, and because of the attention on Beckham, Jarvis Landry was the beneficiary. And the Ravens learned a lesson I think a lot of teams are going to learn. If you key on one of the two of those receivers, the other guy can beat you big time like Landry did.
And now imagine with Callaway coming back.
Yes.
So now you've got a guy that can take the top off a defense.
Yep.
And so now your safety that might cheat and give help to a route that Beckham is running, if you've got Callaway on the other side and he's going to run a go route, now you've got one of your two deep safeties. If you're playing cover two, one of your safeties is going to have to give help for Callaway. And if you don't, then you're going to see balls being thrown over the defense for long touchdown balls to Callaway. So this, I believe, week 5 and then ultimately game number 9 when we get Hunt back, that's when you're going to see this team with its full complement of weapons. And hopefully by then these injuries that have dinged us in our secondary are healed.
The soft tissue injuries.
Yeah, I mean, they're killers.
Yes.
They really are. But if we can get healthy, get Callaway back, and get Kareem back on the field for the Browns, this is going to be a team that I promise you no defense in the league is going to want to match up against. There's very few defenses that will match up favorably with this Browns offense. And the game that I can't wait to see is the Patriots-Browns.
Oh, me too.
I can't wait. I wish that we would have Hunt for that game.
Me too.
Because I think it would be a more accurate description of how these teams match up and what we might see if they were to square off in the playoffs. But then I started thinking about it, and I thought if the Browns are going to make the playoffs, at some point they're going to have to go through the Patriots.
Right.
It's probably better that they won't get a look to see what we're going to do.
the full complement.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah. So I can't wait for that game. I think that's going to be a fun one to watch. And I think we have a season of hope again.
Yeah. Bobby Lewis says Baker seemed to be getting the ball out quicker. Keep it up.
No question.
Yeah, no question. And
yeah.
he was, and he talked about it after the game too. His footwork was better in the pocket. You didn't feel like, okay, somebody's coming in front of you, and now all of a sudden Baker's getting antsy. He was, I think he felt like his offensive line was better, but just fundamentally he was better.
Yeah, no question. And I think that the emphasis that Freddie and the entire offensive staff put on this week's game plan was get back to basics. Let's not try to do too much. Let's do what worked for us last year. The quick 3-step drops, ball out of your hand, throw your receiver open when you need to. And there were times where he went to a full drop and looked to throw the ball downfield. And I thought we saw that there was a pattern developing where when the pocket collapsed, he was immediately taking the same escape hatch every time. Well, defenses learn that.
Right.
And so they start flowing that way, and now you either got to throw against the grain, which leads to pick sixes, or you got to throw the ball out of bounds, or it's going to be a minimal run. So I think what he did was looked at the tape, saw the deficiency, and corrected it. And I think that's a big positive and a takeaway from last week to this. When you watch the film of yesterday's game, when the pocket was collapsing, he was stepping up. He was moving to his left. He was retreating sometimes. He wasn't always taking that same quick, let's run to the right sideline. And I think it extended a few plays, and because of that, they moved the chains. Look, 40-25, I'm a little disappointed that we could have easily had another touchdown and kept them to 18.
No question.
And not that it will come into play, but I'm watching this thinking I want to keep them out of the end zone on that last drive. When they hit the 50-yard touchdown, I wanted to keep them out of the end zone because if you beat a team 40-18, if for the tiebreaker now, you come into the game in Cleveland knowing that they need to beat you by 23.
Right.
So I was a little disappointed that we gave up that last touchdown. But if you're going to say that it comes down to a tiebreaker and we're still spotted 15 points on the Ravens, I like our chances.
Yeah, I do too.
I like them a lot.
Now, here is a great question. And Matt Florjancic wrote about this at WKYC.com. From Brett, how was the defensive back, talking about Humphrey, not ejected for choking Odell Beckham? He also said, he goes, but same for Beckham throwing a punch.
Sure.
I thought that was an immediate ejection.
I thought both were going to be ejected. I did. When they played when they rolled the first replay in, and you could see that it all started with the Beckham throw, the Beckham hand. I immediately thought, well, he's gone. You can't do that. And then I see Beckham on the ground, hand around throat, and I thought, well, he's gone too.
Right.
But see, Beckham has to be very careful because if you trade off Beckham for any player on the other team's defense, that's a win for the defense.
Yes.
And that's a huge loss for the Browns.
Except for like Aaron Donald. That's about it.
Yeah, I would take a Donald for Beckham trade.
Yeah.
That's probably the only one that I would take.
Probably.
So, and we've seen it. We know how teams are going to defend him. They're going to be extremely physical. Teams know he doesn't love that kind of physicality. And if you get him to snap and you get him off the field, that's a huge win. So he's going to have to understand that he's going to be a target all season long.
Right.
How the officials didn't eject both players in that scenario, I don't know. They're both certainly going to be fined.
Oh, no question.
So again, it's another situation where Tuesday or Wednesday of this week, the league's going to have to come out and issue a mea culpa and say, we missed this. We should have ejected the players. By the way, here's a $73,564 fine.
Yeah.
And so, don't get me started on the officiating.
Yeah.
I still say with each year the officiating gets worse.
I do too.
And I don't know how. I don't know how that we're regressing with our officials. We should be doing something to get it right.
Right.
If that means you have to put another official on the field,
so be it.
Maybe one in the air and he's looking down from the box and he's specifically looking for certain things or he has replay jurisdiction. But the officiating in the NFL is a mess, and it's making certain games unwatchable.
Right.
The Titans-Browns game was unwatchable.
Oh, yeah, it was
It was
awful.
absolutely
It was awful.
unwatchable. And I'm not here to say that the Browns didn't commit the majority of those penalties, but I will also show you, for every play you show me where there's a flag thrown, I can show you a play where there could have been a flag thrown.
Right.
And there wasn't.
Right.
So the officials have to be a little more judicious, and I know that they're always trying to set the tone in week one, and I know historically week one is always the most penalized week. But that was ridiculous.
Oh, yeah.
That crew had completely lost control of that game.
Yeah, and it affected, the Browns lost it, and they justifiably lost it, but the penalties affected.
Well, I
the
thought
flow
the
of
play
game.
that turned that game was the Titans' long touchdown after
Yeah.
the Browns scored.
Yeah, I
finally
agree.
scored a long drive
Yeah,
touchdown.
the 75-yarder to Henry.
And then and there's a clear missed penalty on that play.
Yes.
Clear. And
Yes.
so they're calling tic-tac stuff on the Browns, and they're letting a play go where, the 65,000 officials in the stadium are screaming,
Yeah.
how did you not see that?
Right.
And so that's the kind of stuff that if we can't believe in what we're watching, then the NFL has an integrity problem.
Yeah.
And, last year, there was the wrong team went to the biggest game of the season.
Yeah.
And they rewrote the pass interference playbook, essentially, to make that play reviewable. And they've missed on that 85% of the times
We talked about that
on the
earlier
replays that I've
last week.
seen.
Yeah.
And I continue to be mystified by it. I thought on the triple reverse Beckham throw, I thought that Ratley was interfered with.
I do too.
Defender had two hands on the back of his shoulders before the ball ever hit him.
Right, can't do that.
But Freddie has seen, he's paying attention. He knows, that's pass interference by any definition, but I'm not going to win it,
Right.
so I'm going to keep the red flag in my pocket.
Right.
So why have the rule in the first place?
Right.
It drives me nuts.
To kind of put a bow on everything here before I let you go, from Bill, how do you feel about our chances, talk about the Browns' chances on Monday night against the 49ers?
I like them. I like them a lot.
I do too.
Because I think now we come in on a bit of a roll with some nice momentum. We just beat a playoff team in their building, a team that had the number one offense in the NFL, and we beat them resoundingly. It was so when I look at, and I know it's a week to week and everything's matchup based, but when I look at the matchups for these two teams, I think we match up favorably.
Yes.
And I believe that the Browns are going to go in there and they're going to be in the football game throughout, and I think they come back with a victory.
Yeah, I think they've got now a week after, kind of everybody was kind of questioning the direction and the way things were handled. They, kind of kept it quiet and went about their business and played a terrific football game yesterday.
Yeah.
And now, as you say,
I could still do without some of the social media chirping.
Yeah.
I could.
Yeah. Does Baker need to worry about Antonio Brown?
No.
Not so much.
Not in the league.
No.
He's not in the league.
No.
Let him have his fun on social media. My advice would be tune out the noise, do your job. That's what I was watching Teddy Bruschi yesterday, And I got to be very good friends with Teddy when I was working at ESPN. And Teddy always used to say, Bill Belichick's way is tune out the noise, do your job.
Do your job.
That will never be a bad plan.
No.
So the critics are out there, and they're always going to be out there.
Yes.
And
especially for this for this football team.
Yes, and they're going to be waving their flags when you perform poorly. So if you don't like that, then you probably should take a look at how you are in the media and in good times.
Right.
Just be even keel, tune out that noise, do your job, and forget the social media trolls.
Right.
They're always going to be there.
Right.
You can't answer them because when you do, it's like feeding the cats. They're coming back for more milk. Just don't give them what they want.
Right.
They want to call their buddies and say, Baker Mayfield just replied to my clap.
Right.
Stop.
Let it go.
I would, if I were a superstar player in the NFL, I would sign off social media from the first day of the regular season.
Do the
last day.
LeBron Zero Dark 23.
Yep. And everybody says, I'm sure he still looks. Maybe he does, but he doesn't engage.
Yep.
And so you can't help the media create a story.
All right.
When he replies and shouts out AB and freezing your feet off, and AB replies, and then it's this thing.
Yeah.
That's a distraction.
Thankfully it wasn't an issue, but it could be an issue.
Well, I'll promise you this. Had Baker laid an egg and the Browns lost, the reason for it would have been, why is he playing around on social media with Antonio Brown?
Right. Why isn't he focusing on the game?
Don't give them any motivational logs. Don't give the critics, the Colin Cowherds of the world, don't give them. You're feeding them when you reply to the criticism.
Right.
You're always going to have critics. Tune them out, and the best way to shut them up is just go win football games.
Play your game.
And you can do that at a higher rate if you're focused on just winning football games and not answering trolls on Twitter. Just don't do it.
Sound advice for all of us on social media.
Yeah,
but especially
I call Twitter the world's largest bathroom wall.
I like it.
You can write whatever you want. It may be true, it may not be. There's no accountability.
No.
Some of these people have an egg as their picture.
Yes.
And their sign name is Too Cool for You.
Yes.
And they probably live in their mom's basement.
Probably.
So just ignore them.
Don't give them a platform.
Don't give them a platform. Look, if they still want to shout out, they're going to do it.
Right.
But I just think that it's all outside noise and it's unnecessary. They don't need it.
Yeah. Especially, you have buttons like mute and block. They work out well. They really do.
Yeah. Or just put it down.
That's right, my friend. I appreciate
Always
it.
good, Dino.
All right.
Go
Jay
Browns.
Crawford, our guest here this morning on After Further Review. Browns beat the Ravens 40-25 on this Victory Monday. We've got a lot more content for you about the game at WKYC.com. And remember, on the front row later this evening, it's a Victory Monday. Jimmy will have guests and recap it, have all kinds of fun, because a win like that deserves the fun as we get ready for the 49ers 1 week from tonight. All right, for Brian Crane, our director, and for Jay Crawford, I'm Dave DeNatale. Thanks for watching After Further Review here on 3 News, Facebook Live, YouTube, and on WK.